The sky above Threxal 9 was dark purple, filled with glowing rings that shimmered like fire. The air smelled of sweet metal and ozone, and deep under one of the glass towers of the city, a girl sat alone in a quiet room. Her name was Leora. She stared into a mirror, watching the faint glow on her neck fade. Again. The mark was once golden, bright, and alive. Now it flickered, dull and weak like a dying star. She knew what that meant. The countdown had started. When a girl like her reached this stage, she had only 9 rotations left. That was 9 days. If the mark went out completely, her body would shut down, slowly, painfully, and she would die like the other inactive girls. She touched her neck gently. "I don't want to die," she whispered. The elders told her that her body needed to be activated. They said only bonding, mating, with a partner of perfect biological match could light her mark again. But there was a problem. No Threxalian. Male matched her. They had tested her with all the high-blooded sons. Some tried to fake it just to claim her, but the mark never glowed. Not once. She had watched her sisters disappear, one by one, carried away when their glow faded. Everyone knew what happened next. Now it was her turn. Leora stood, her silver hair falling around her glowing eyes. She opened the screen wall, staring out at the city. Drones moved silently between towers. Her people looked advanced, proud, cold. She hated how they pretended girls like her didn't exist. Unfit to bond, they said, defective. So they let them die quietly, hidden. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the ground. Red light flashed in the sky. She stepped back as alarms blared from the towers. Something had crashed outside the city dome. Guards rushed through the streets below. Drones changed formation, pointing toward the crash zone. Then came the announcement, buzzing across the city speakers. "Warning! A foreign vessel has entered Threxalian airspace. A crash is confirmed in Sector 6. Prepare for lockdown." Leora's eyes widened. A foreign vessel? Only one kind of ship wasn't allowed on Threxal 9. Human ships. She had read about humans. Her people feared them. They called them chaotic, wild, dangerously emotional, but also strangely powerful. Some records even said that human biology was highly adaptable. A small hope lit in her chest. What if, just maybe, a human could match her? Her mark pulsed, faint but clear. That night she disguised herself in dark robes and slipped past the city guard. The crash site was still burning, but she moved like a shadow. In the middle of the debris, a figure was crawling out from broken metal. He was tall, covered in blood and ash, but he stood, a human male. His face was strong but calm, his eyes sharp, his uniform half torn. But he wasn't afraid. He looked straight at the guards surrounding him and didn't run. Leora stayed hidden, heart pounding. She watched as the guards raised their weapons. The human slowly raised his hands, but then, with shocking speed, he dodged the stun blast, rolled, and disarmed one of the guards. Even injured. He was fast. Too fast. The other guards fired together and dropped him. "No!" Leora whispered. She didn't know why, but she ran. Through smoke. Through fire. She found him lying on the ground, breathing hard. His eyes flicked open when he saw her face. For a moment they just stared at each other, and in that moment, her neck burned hot. The mark glowed bright, brighter than it had in weeks. He looked at it. "What the hell is that?" She gasped and touched it. "It's you." Blinked. "What?" Before she could answer, more guards appeared behind her. Without thinking, Leora grabbed his arm and pulled him into the shadows. They limped together through broken glass and steam, hiding in the old vents beneath the crash zone. When they stopped, he looked at her. "You saved me." "Why?" Her voice trembled. "Because you just saved me." He frowned. "What do you mean?" Leora turned her neck, showing the glowing mark. "This was dying. Until I met you." He stared at her glowing skin, confused, curious, and for the first time in days, Leora smiled. Maybe, Just maybe, she didn't have to die. Jace opened his eyes slowly. The air smelled like smoke and metal. His body ached and a strange buzzing sound filled his ears. He was alive. But he didn't know how he got there. The last thing he remembered was a bright light and a crash. Now he was lying on cold stone, deep inside some kind of tunnel. Pipes ran across the ceiling. Alien symbols glowed faintly on the walls. A girl sat beside him. Silver hair, glowing eyes, skin pale like moonlight. She looked calm, but her fingers trembled. As soon as he moved, she leaned closer. "You're awake," she whispered. He sat up slowly. Where am I?" "You crashed near my city. The guards tried to capture you. I brought you here to hide." Jace blinked. "Why would you help me?" She looked away. Her glowing mark dimmed slightly. "Because I think you're the only one who can save me." Jace tried to stand but stumbled. Leora caught his arm. Her touch was gentle, warm. As soon as her hand touched his skin, the mark on her neck brightened again. He noticed it. "What is that thing on your neck?" She hesitated, then told him everything, her race, her mark, the countdown, the law. "That's insane," he said, eyes wide. "They let girls die if no one bonds with them?" She nodded. "They say, we're born broken. If no one activates our bond, we fade away. One by one." Jace shook his head. "That's not right. That's murder." Leora's voice cracked. "It's normal here. My people pretend it's tradition. But really, it's just slow death." Jace leaned against the wall, trying to think. His memories were jumbled. His ship was gone. His comm was fried. He didn't even know which planet he was on. But one thing was clear. This girl saved him, and somehow he was keeping her alive just by being near her. "You said I'm helping you," he asked. "How?" She looked at him with wide eyes. "When I saw you, my mark glowed again. That's never happened before. Not even with my own kind." "So, you think I'm the match you need?" "I don't think. I know." She moved closer. "My body feels warm again. My breath is stronger." The countdown slowed. Jace looked at her carefully. She didn't seem desperate or dangerous. She looked terrified, hopeful, and very real. Suddenly, a loud thump echoed from the tunnel above. Leora froze. "They've found us." Jace stood up quickly. "Do you have a way out?" She nodded. "Follow me." They ran through the maze of pipes, Leora leading with quick, silent steps. She seemed to know every corner. Jace followed, his legs aching but his instincts kicking in. Up ahead, a security drone hovered into view. "Wait," Jace whispered. "Let me handle this." He grabbed a loose pipe from the wall. As the drone turned to scan them, he leapt forward and smashed it down with one blow. Leora gasped. "You're fast, like a trained warrior." "I think I was," he muttered. "I just don't remember yet." They finally stopped in an old underground station, abandoned, dark, and quiet. Jace sat down, breathing heavily. Leora sat across from him, watching his every move. Her fingers brushed her neck again. "How much time do you have?" he asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she spoke softly. 8 rotations left, that's 8 days. After that, my body will start shutting down." Jace rubbed his hands over his face. "And you need physical bonding to survive?" She nodded. "It doesn't have to be forced. It has to be real. The body chooses." He looked at her seriously. "Leora, I don't even know who I am right now. What if I'm not the person you think I am?" "I know you are," she said softly. "Because when you touched me, I felt alive." They sat in silence. Above ground, guards searched every block. The alien queen had been informed. A human had survived, and worse, one of her unclaimed girls had gone missing. She ordered immediate capture. and if found together, both must die. Back underground, Jace stared into the dark. I don't know why I'm here, he said. But if fate brought me to you, maybe it's not by accident. Leora reached out again. Her fingers touched his. Her eyes glowed softly. My people fear humans, she whispered. But I don't. You're the only one who ever made me feel like I belong. Jace didn't speak, but he didn't pull his hand away either. And Leora smiled. Leora sat with her back against the cold tunnel wall, staring into nothing. Her hands were folded in her lap, but her fingers trembled. Across from her, Jace cleaned a long scratch on his arm with a torn cloth. Silence hung between them, like a thick fog. Then Leora finally spoke. You don't know what they'll do to me if they catch me with you. Jace raised an eyebrow. They'll punish you for saving me? She nodded slowly. Yes, but not just for that. I'm an inactive female. That alone is a crime in my people's eyes. Jace leaned forward. You said before, your body shuts down unless you bond with someone. But why make it a law? Leora swallowed hard. A long time ago, our leaders created the Preservation Protocol. It started as a way to protect weak bloodlines, but over time it became cruel. She paused, voice shaking. Any girl whose mark dims before her 20th cycle is declared a non-viable host. If no partner bonds with her, she's labeled inactive and removed. Jace frowned. Removed? They take us away quietly without warning. 1 minute you're there, the next you're gone. No funeral. No farewell. Jace's fists clenched. That's not a law, that's a death sentence. Leora looked down. We're told it's an honorable exit. But it's fear. Shame. They don't want to admit some of us are different, so they call it tradition. She stood and touched her mark. It was glowing faintly. You changed it, she whispered. You slowed the end. Jace got up, face serious. Then we need to leave. Find someone who can help. A scientist. A medic. Maybe someone on your side? No. Her voice cut through the air. There is no one on my side, not in this city. Jace blinked. No one? Leora turned to face him. The law protects bloodlines, not individuals. I don't have strong blood. My mother was from a low branch. I was born under a shadow. Jace's voice softened. Then let's make our own side. Outside the tunnels, searchlights scanned the ground. Guards patrolled the streets. Above them, in the council tower, a dark room buzzed with energy. Inside, High Enforcer Krell stood before the Queen of Threxall 9. He bowed deeply. The human lives. The girl has taken him. The Queen's eyes narrowed. That girl should have been gone weeks ago. The bond between them is active, my Queen. Her mark is responding. A long silence followed. Finally, the Queen's voice was cold and sharp. Then both are to be destroyed. If we allow this union, others will challenge the law. Back in the shadows, Leora and Jace crawled through an old sewer hatch and reached the surface, far from the city walls. They found shelter in a broken watchtower, long abandoned by the military. Leora curled up in a corner, wrapping herself in an old blanket. Jace stood guard near the broken door, listening for drones. But his thoughts were louder than the night. He looked down at his hand. Was this fate? Why her? Why now? He didn't even know who he truly was, yet here he was, being told that his touch might be the difference between life and death. Suddenly, Leora cried out in pain. Jace rushed to her side. Her mark flickered violently, like a candle in wind. Her body arched. Her skin turned pale. Cold sweat covered her face. It's happening, she gasped. It's the next stage. Jace held her hand. No, stay awake, don't go quiet on me. She could barely speak. You have to. Stay close. Please. He pressed his forehead to hers. I'm here. I'm not leaving. And slowly, her body settled. The mark flared, then steadied. She opened her eyes. You brought me back, Jace stared at her. This law of yours, it's wrong. No one should live afraid of a clock on their body. Leora gave a weak smile. That's why I'm glad you came from the sky. Maybe it means change is coming. Jace looked out the window toward the burning city lights in the distance. No, he said. Change is already here. The wind howled across the ruins of the old tower. Metal beams creaked. Dust swirled in the air like ghosts. Inside, Jace sat on the floor beside Leora. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. He pressed 2 fingers against her neck. The mark still glowed, but weaker than before. Too weak. He whispered, "Come on, stay with me." Suddenly her fingers moved. "Jace," she whispered, "don't let go." "I won't." Then he took her hand and held it tight, and something changed. Her mark flared bright like a spark catching fire. It didn't just glow, it pulsed. The light ran down her veins, lighting up her skin like glowing ink. She gasped and opened her eyes. For a moment, everything around them stood still. Even the air felt warmer. Leora stared at him. "Did you feel that?" Jace nodded slowly. "Yeah. Like an electric current." "That was a bond response," she said, trembling. "The first real one I've ever had." He looked stunned. "Just from touching your hand?" She nodded. "Yes. My body recognized you." He swallowed hard. "Then what happens now?" Leora looked away, her face flushing slightly. "Now the system will try to complete the link, even if we don't." "What do you mean by complete?" Before she could answer, a high-pitched scream echoed from the woods outside the tower. Leora's body stiffened. Hunters. Outside, black-armored aliens with thin limbs and mask-like faces moved through the trees. Biotrackers scanned the ground. One guard knelt and touched the soil. "She was here," he hissed. The captain lifted a long scanner toward the tower. It beeped twice. "Target located. Orders?" The Queen's voice crackled through the comm. "Bring the girl back. Kill the human." Back in the tower, Leora stood shakily. Her knees wobbled, but she walked. Jace blocked her path. "You're too weak." She shook her head. "I'm not weak. Not anymore. You gave me strength." He looked at her, really looked at her. Her eyes burned brighter than before. Her posture was firm, but outside, they were surrounded. Suddenly, something flashed through his memory, a hidden reflex, a combat drill. He remembered a voice. "If you're outnumbered, don't run. Control the field." "Leora," he said, voice calm. "If they catch us, they'll separate us." She nodded. "If that happened, I'll die." "Then we don't let them." As the guards closed in, Jace led her through a hatch under the floor. A forgotten maintenance tunnel ran beneath the tower. They ran together, breathing, fast. The path forked. Jace turned right, but Leora tugged his arm. Left goes deeper, safer. He trusted her and followed. Soon they reached a chamber filled with glowing vines. The air was warmer here. Ancient tech pulsed in the walls. Leora sat down. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Then she looked at Jace with wide, scared eyes. "The bond is trying to complete. If we don't do something, my system might force it." He stepped closer. "Tell me what you need." She hesitated. "Your touch, just your hand. That might be enough to stabilize it." He nodded slowly. "Then take what you need." She placed her hand over his chest and he placed his palm over her glowing neck mark. As their skin touched, a wave of light burst from the chamber walls. The ancient vines responded, glowing, vibrating. The bond energy surrounded them both. Leora's body lifted slightly off the ground. Her eyes turned gold. Jace held on tight. He saw flashes, her memories, her childhood, her loneliness, the moment she saw him, and she saw his, the crash, the loss, the confusion, the emptiness. Then silence. When the light faded, Leora collapsed forward into Jace's arms, gasping. "It worked," she whispered. He held her tightly. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "The mark. It's complete. The bond is real now." Then she looked into his eyes. "By our law, you are now my chosen." Above ground, the hunters reached the tower, but it was empty. Only the walls were warm, only the earth still glowed. And the queen, she was furious. "Then we changed the law," she hissed. "Bring them both in dead." The doors of the high judgment hall slammed open with a deep echo. All heads turned. 100 alien nobles stood around a glowing circle in the center of the great hall. They wore long robes and golden faceplates, eyes cold and distant. At the front, seated on a black crystal throne, was the Queen of Threxall 9. She leaned forward as the guards dragged Jace into the room. His shirt was torn. His hands were chained. His face bruised, but his eyes burned with fire. 2 guards followed behind him, holding Leora, barely conscious. Her mark flickered weakly again. The Queen rose. Her voice echoed across the hall. "You stand accused of breaking sacred law. An inactive girl cannot bond with a human. The punishment is death." Jace's voice cracked the silence. "I don't care about your law. She's alive because of me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "You dare speak in our sacred court?" Jace took a deep breath. "I do. And more than that, I claim her." Leora's eyes fluttered open. She looked up at him. "You don't have to." "I do," he whispered. "You gave me purpose. Now I give you protection." The Queen's voice turned cold. "By claiming her, you invoke the right of final bond. You must prove that the connection is complete, that it is true." An elder stepped forward holding a silver orb. He lifted it between Jace and Leora. "Touch together. If the bond is real, the orb will glow. If it's false, both will burn." Jace looked at Leora. She was weak. But her hand still reached for his. He didn't hesitate. Their fingers met around the orb. Nothing happened for a second. Then, boom! A blast of light erupted from the orb, nearly knocking the elders back. The mark on Leora's neck flared so bright it lit the entire hall. The ancient crystal walls began to hum. Symbols carved into the ground lit up. Something old, something sacred had been awakened. The elders dropped to one knee. Whispers spread fast. "The bond is real. It's a pure match. The law never said it had to be one of us." But the Queen's face twisted in fury. "No," she shouted. "This cannot be allowed. He is an outsider." She raised her hand to strike, but a sudden quake shook the chamber. At the edges of the room, the long-forgotten bond guardians, statues made of stone and energy, began to move. Their eyes glowed, and they turned toward Jace and Leora. They knelt. Leora sat up fully, her strength returning. The mark on her neck didn't just glow, it burned with power. She stood beside Jace, now taller, stronger. "Your law tried to kill me," she said, "but the truth saved me." The Queen stepped back, shaken. "You dare to speak against the throne?" Jace stepped forward. "We don't want your throne. We want freedom." Outside the hall, people began gathering as word spread. The impossible had happened. An unmatchable girl had bonded with a human. Old laws were being questioned. Old power was trembling. Inside, the Queen looked at her guards. "Seize them." But no one moved. Not a single guard lifted a hand, because in that moment they all saw it too. Something greater had begun. Leora turned to Jace, her voice soft now. "By bond law, you are mine." He smiled. "And you're mine." She gripped his hand tightly, and together they walked out of the judgment hall, alive, bonded, unstoppable. But far above them in the Queen's private chamber, a silent message was sent out across the stars, a warning. The bond has formed. The human must be eliminated before more like him arrive. Darkness fell across the capital of Threxall 9, but it wasn't night. It was the Queen's command. Every tower dimmed. Every gate locked. Drones filled the skies like angry birds. The Queen had declared a level 0 lockdown, something not seen in generations, and all because of one thing. A human had bonded with an unfit girl and lived. Inside the throne chamber, the Queen stood alone before the great mirror of truth. It showed her visions of the past and of what could come. She whispered to it, furious, "He defies me, and the girl, she dares to shine." The mirror rippled and spoke back. "The ancient bond is real, your law is broken." She slammed her hand against the glass. "Then I will break them." Behind her, General Vyrek entered, head bowed. "Shall I send the assassins?" The Queen nodded. "Not just assassins, call the eaters." Vyrek froze. "The eaters are only for war." The Queen turned slowly, eyes like cold fire. "This is war." Far from the palace, Jace and Leora sat by a fire in a hidden cave deep beneath the cliffs. The place was warm, peaceful, silent. For the first time in days, they weren't running. Jace cleaned a scratch on Leora's arm while she winced. "You still okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Since the bond completed, I feel stronger. I think, even faster." Jace smiled. "Good, because we're going to need that." He stood and paced. "We made it through the trial, but now we've shaken the whole system. You saw their faces. The Queen won't just let us go." Leora's voice dropped. "She will try to erase us as if we were a mistake." Jace clenched his fists. "Then we won't let her." Suddenly the air outside shifted. A strange, unnatural cold slid into the cave. Jace froze. "Something's coming." Leora's mark pulsed in warning. From the cave mouth they came, tall, cloaked figures with long limbs and hollow eyes. The eaters, creatures bred for silence. Their bodies fed on light and life. One stepped forward, voice like wind through bones. "Your bond glows. We are here to end it." Jace stepped in front of Leora. "Try it." The creature hissed and lunged, fast as lightning, but Jace was faster. He flipped the creature over his shoulder and kicked it into the wall. Leora grabbed a fallen rod and struck another in the chest. For a few seconds, they held their ground. But more eaters poured in. Jace turned to Leora. "We can't fight them all. Go, get to the surface," she shouted. "Not without you." He pushed her toward a narrow path. "I'll cover you." Leora ran. As she reached the exit, she turned back and saw Jace surrounded. His body glowed faintly, his skin reacting to her bond energy. She gasped, "He's changing." Inside, Jace's strength grew. His body moved faster, hit harder. The mark on Leora's neck had left a mirrored trace on his chest, glowing like a brand. For the first time in Threxalian history, the bond didn't just save the girl, it changed the human. At the palace, the Queen watched it unfold through her war mirror. She slammed her hand down. "Impossible. The bond is transforming him." A priest behind her whispered, "Your Majesty, the old prophecy." The Queen turned sharply. "There is no prophecy, there is only me." But deep down her bones trembled, because she remembered the legend, the one she had buried. "One shall come not born of our world, one who burns the dying mark bright. He shall touch the untouchable and awaken the forbidden bond. From that touch the empire shall fall." Back in the mountains, Jace broke through the last of the eaters. His body was glowing, veins pulsing with the same light as Leora's. She ran to him, eyes wide. You're becoming like me." Jace caught his breath. "No, I'm becoming us." She hugged him tightly, feeling the rhythm of their shared bond. And behind them, the last eater hissed, "You are both now outlaws." Jace smiled. "Good." Then he kicked the eater off the cliff. They stood together, wind in their hair. "Stars above," Leora whispered. "They'll keep hunting us." Jace nodded. "Let them. But next time, we don't run." The sun rose over Threxal 9 for the first time in days, but it wasn't the same world anymore. Its capital city, once proud and cruel, now sat on the edge of change. Whispers ran through the towers, homes, and streets. The human lives. The girl shines brighter than ever. Their bond is real, sacred, unstoppable. And far from the Queen's palace, in the quiet forest beyond the cliffs, Jace and Leora stood hand in hand, their bond complete, their future uncertain, but their hearts united. Jace looked down at his chest. The glowing symbol had spread from a mark to a pattern, wrapping around his shoulder like living ink. Leora touched it gently. That symbol, it's our bond signature. It only forms when two souls are completely connected. He smiled. Then it's permanent? She nodded. For life and maybe longer. But they couldn't hide forever. Jace knew it. Leora knew it too. Their bond wasn't just rare, it was a revolution. And revolutions brought fire. We have to go back, Jace said, looking out at the horizon. Leora tensed. To the palace? No, he said. To the people. That same day, they walked into the outer districts of Threxall 9, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. The guards froze when they saw them, but they didn't draw weapons, because Leora wasn't glowing faintly anymore. She was blazing with life. Her presence alone stopped them cold. Her steps were soft, but her eyes were fierce. And the human beside her? His skin marked with the sacred bond sigil. He didn't just look like an outsider anymore. He looked like a chosen one. They made their way to the old gathering plaza, a place once used for executions of the unfit. Now it became a stage. Jace stood tall, Leora beside him. Crowds formed, curious, silent. He raised his voice. I am Jace of Earth. This is Leora of Threxall 9. She was marked to die because your law said she was inactive. But the truth? She was stronger than all of you. She just needed someone willing to see her. Murmurs. He continued. I didn't come here to take over your world. I came here by accident. But now, I stay by choice. He turned to Leora. Because she saved me, and I saved her. That's what the bond really is. Leora stepped forward. Her voice, clear and calm, reached every corner. I was born to be erased. But now, I'm more alive than ever. Not because I followed your law, but because I broke it. The crowd stirred, and then from the back someone knelt, then another, and another. In the palace, the queen stood on her balcony, watching the bond revolution unfold. Her face was pale, her voice hollow. They bowed to them. An elder whispered, You said she was weak, but maybe she was what we needed. The queen turned slowly. Then quietly she removed her golden crown. A week later, the bond laws were rewritten. Inactive girls were no longer sentenced to death. Humans were welcomed, for the first time in Threxalian history, as allies. Medical. Teams studied Leora and Jace's bond to understand what made it work. Some feared it. Others called it the future. But none could deny the truth. Love had done what law could not. Jace and Leora were offered places in the High Council. They refused. Instead, they chose to build something new, a bond sanctuary where humans and aliens could meet, learn, and heal. Girls who once lived in fear now came there, with hope. One evening, Leora sat under the stars, leaning on Jace's shoulder. Do you think this will last? She asked. He nodded. Because we didn't just change a law, we changed hearts. She smiled. I almost died before I ever lived. You're alive now, he whispered. And you shine. She looked at him, eyes soft. And so do you. Far, across the galaxy, other worlds watched Threxall 9, some with wonder, some with fear. Because if a human and an unfit alien girl could rise together, then anything was possible.